Brad Gilmore, ESPN Radio, CW39, Houston. Ryan, Anna, thank you so much for taking the time. Congrats on the movie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I want to really start first with a compliment. I have never seen a movie like this, and I mean that in the best of ways. I feel like I've seen DNA of this movie and other movies, but I've never seen one like this from start to finish. So again, congratulations on something original. And that's where I want to start with the writing, being writers and directors of this. Can you give me the soup to nuts, kind of where the inception of this idea first came about to finishing the screenplay? Like where did it start?
It started a long time ago, back in 1987. I was a 10-year-old kid growing up in Oakland, and I remember hearing the lyrics to Freaky Tales for the first time at an age that was probably inappropriate. And it always stuck with me. And I was like, one day, one day I'm going to clear my throat, and then I'm going to make a movie called Freaky Tales. And so, yeah, and that was the same year that the Sleepy Floyd game, the game where he went off against the Lakers in a playoff game. And I remember hearing it on the radio, and the announcer, Greg Papa, literally says Sleepy Floyd is Superman because he just took over that game. And so these are the ingredients that just sort of like kept flowing around in my head for many, many years and eventually became the movie that we've got today.
And Anna, from the screenplay, when you've, I guess, finished the final draft in your mind to actually going and now implementing it and having to shoot it in real life, were there some scenes in the screenplay that didn't make it to the film? You know, because I know sometimes writers are they say writers are the worst editors. We fall in love with the words, right? So it's sometimes hard to cut things. Was there something that was in the screenplay that didn't make it into the film?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that we cut scenes, that there were a few scenes that we cut, a few lines that we cut here and there for sure. But I'll say it was a pretty tight screenplay. It was under 100 pages. It was the first time I think we've ever written a screenplay under 100 pages. Usually we're just like struggling to get it like under like 115 pages, we're just clawing back pages. But this was pretty tight. Every time like I would try to put any exposition or backstory about a character in, Ryan would be like, there will be no backstory in this. It's just it was always just about like, let's pack this movie, like just keep it moving forward, keep the audience engaged, keep it about like having fun, and really just like about these like underdogs, these like underdogs in the East Bay, like seeking out justice and like seeking out their wins, and crossing paths, and like their kind of lives colliding over these few days, and like having this kind of, you know, fun few kind of magical days in the Bay.
So when you have a film, just I guess in general, my mind always goes to this when there's something set in a period, especially like in the 1980s. It's such a distinctive cultural time where music, dress, all of that. What kind of challenge does that make as a filmmaker for making sure that we set this correctly in the 80s, not just from a tone, but from a practicality, from props to sets and so on?
Yeah. No, I think I mean, it's the budget and the time and the amount of resources that you have. Like we made a Marvel movie years ago, which had all the resources, all the time in the world to make that movie. And on this one, it's a big movie. We've got action set pieces in this movie, but it was still an indie film. So with the amount of time that we had was a challenge. But we made sure that like we had a great team of people working with us, production designers, the art directors that made sure that they did the research and that they had all those details locked down.
And our costume designer, Shay, she like did so much with so little in terms of, because she's like dressing people for the punk scene, for hip hop scene, for this kind of like all these like bikers and these skinheads and like all the different kind of cultural elements, and yet they're all have to be in the 80s, and like that's hard to do, but she really pulled it off and on a shoestring.
Well, everybody pulled it off. The cast is amazing. The writing's amazing. The movie's amazing. And again, just congratulations on something fresh and unique.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Y'all have a great one. All right,
Too.
bye-bye. All right, here we go. Brad Gilmore, CW39, ESPN Radio. G Young, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations on the movie.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, look, I told this to the filmmakers earlier, but I've seen a lot of movies, but I don't think I've ever seen a movie that quite like this, that strikes this tone that it does. I see DNA of other movies in it, but nothing like this from beginning to end. Must have been really fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, it was so much fun. This is one of those movies where you read the script and you go, even if I don't necessarily understand everything that's happening, the filmmakers clearly have such a deep point of view and a real clear idea of something they want to try, and that's just the best kind of risk to take.
Right, I can imagine, like, that's what I was gonna ask about reading the script, and when you're reading it, you must be like, "They're gonna do wait, what? What is going on in this in this movie?" But as an actor, that's like an opportunity you jump at.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing for me where I'm looking at a character or a story, or in this case, both, where I'm like, I've never tried anything like this. This seems like a completely new challenge. And also, when am I going to get an opportunity like this again? So I absolutely should try and go for it.
Okay, so what's your step like in the process? You said it's something that you haven't done before, a story that you've really never read before, a great challenge. Do you immediately go through character breakdown when you get the role and start making notes on your script, or like what's your next process once you've been cast and accept the project?
I mean, it varies for every character. I mean, I think the most stable thing I could say is that it always starts with the script. There's always clues in the script of who this character is. But with this character, it was building her look, which was in the script, which was part of what it was so exciting. It's like Tina, piercings, tattoos, cool hair, like she's like an amazing punk girl. So that immediately told me that there's gonna be so much room to explore and on the costume and hair and makeup side. But for this film specifically, Ryan, who's from Oakland, really wanted someone in the punk chapter to pick up an Oakland dialect, so he asked me to do that. And that was incredibly daunting, but very exciting. I've always wanted to do dialect work. So I met one time with a dialect coach the day before we started work because I was coming off another movie and had zero time to prepare. I was actually flying up to Oakland on weekends to do hair and makeup and costume fittings while I was finishing the movie that I had been shooting in LA.
Wow.
So a lot of the film felt very go big or go home. You either it's it do or die kind of thing, which I think was good because Tina as a character is such a risk taker and she's so bold that you just kind of have to go for it.
Was there something like when trying to get the Oakland dialect, which obviously every dialect is very specific and has its little idiosyncrasies and the pauses and the way that people talk. But was there like a word or an access point that you found that was like, oh, this is how I get into that?
Yeah, normally I made playlists for all my characters and I listen to it on the way to work. And this is such a great character to do that for. But because I had so little
Sure.
prep time, I did have the playlist, but I was always listening to an interview of Ryan Coogler, who directed Black Panther and Creed and
Of course.
Devastation, and can't wait to see his new movie that's coming out. And he has an interview where he talks about growing up in Oakland, and it's at a director's roundtable, and he says this one phrase. He says, "What you don't know, you're afraid of." And I would repeat that over and over because it had the right vowels and the right sounds and the R's that I needed to hit. So I would be in that saying that over and over in my head all day. And I just wouldn't break the accent because I was terrified that once I broke the accent on set, it might not come back.
I love that. Ryan Coogler definitely does have that true blue Oakland accent. The movie takes place in the 80s, which is not a place that I was able to experience in real life, but I've fallen in love with during the movies, right? Back to the
Yeah.
Future is my favorite movie of all time. I think it's such a great series. 80s are so distinct, I think more so than even 60s and 70s. They're very specific in the types of music, clothes, hair, things of that nature. What did you enjoy most of exploring the 80s, also not being a child of the decade?
Oh, I enjoyed so much of it. What's great about doing something set in a specific time period is that there's such a wealth of historical information. So I read a lot of books about the development of the music scenes in Oakland, and I think maybe my favorite part was that because this is such a music-based film, I did so much research around music that came out of the East Bay, and I just loved seeing how all these artists who I knew through their music were all from the East Bay, all drew inspiration from the same people, all hung out with the same groups of people. It was very mind-blowing to me to realize that so many of my favorite artists are from the same town.
It's awesome. Well, the movie's great. You're great in it. I had a lot of fun with it. A very unique piece of cinema. So I hope everybody goes out and sees it. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.